Kathy Lette, God, old friend, welcome to the Great Big Book Club. So nice to see you.
Hello, you literary lioness. We're members of the Cliterati, aren't we, you and I?
We are indeed. How are you?
Bit deranged because I've got a new book out.
Yes.
I'm supposed to be in Australia.
Can we see it? Can we see it? Show it to us.
Yeah, promoting it. It's called HRT, Husband Replacement Therapy.
And it is a work of genius, of course.
Oh, thank you, darling. I'm so glad you slipped between my covers. Satisfaction.
I did.
But, I'm supposed to be there. I was having this fantastic book launch. I was going to be carried in by 6 gorgeous love gods in teeny weeny white budgie smugglers covered in sequins. But no, I'm just marooned in London, drinking myself to death.
Oh, good girl.
And so I'm missing my entire book tour. I'm doing it all by Skype at like 2 a.m. because Australia's 9 hours ahead, or late at night, midnight, getting the afternoon show. So it's very, very surreal.
Quite tough, no? I mean, it's sort of.
Yeah, it is. It's awful. But then again, I think, well, it is terrible that I can't be there on my tour. But has there ever been a better time to launch a comedy book? Because have we ever needed a laugh more? They say laughter is the best medicine. It's the only medicine we have right now, unless you believe Donald Trump and you're ingesting vast quantities of bleach.
Yeah, the Dettol.
Also, because, it's called HRT, Husband Replacement Therapy, have women ever wanted to divorce their husbands so much than after 6 weeks of lockdown?
I know.
But actually, it's in China, after lockdown ended, divorce statistics absolutely skyrocketed, and 75% of divorces there were initiated by women. So where Wuhan goes, the rest of the world follows. And so watch out, guys. And I think the main reason is the lack of domesticity. I think giving a room a sweeping glance is the biggest contribution most men make to health.
Also, there's this brilliant thing where my husband will open the fridge and then say, "There's nothing to eat." But I think, can you not see? Can you not just have a look? I said, "Are you looking like a man again?" Yes. There's some cheese right in front of you.
I know. And also with all the homeschooling, most of my girlfriends tell me that with the homeschooling, the men just choose PE because they can go out. So that means they can take the kids out and let the kids ride up and down their bikes while they just play games on their phone. Things like that. So, yeah, I think there's going to be a fair bit of HRT. But the real reason I wanted to write this book is that I think for the first time in history, women can have this second act. Yes,
so tell us about it. So it starts with Ruby's birthday.
Right. Well, it starts with Ruby's birthday, on her 50th birthday, and she's very popular. She's very likeable and witty and warm, and she's giving her speech, but things don't quite go to plan because she drinks way too much, and she ends up telling everybody what she really thinks about them. She has a go at the school mums and her book club friends, and she has a go at her own mother, who's a horrible, vicious old matriarch, and is so upset that she's estranged from her sisters. She reveals that she's just found out her husband's having an affair. So it's a complete car crash. And then at the very end of the speech, she says, "Oh, by the way, I've just discovered that I've got terminal pancreatic cancer." So cut to scene 2, chapter 2, when she wakes up with a terrible hangover and a letter plops through the door and she opens it up and it's from her doctor saying, "We are so sorry we sent you that letter by mistake. You're absolutely fine. It was a mix-up of names, don't worry." And she's like, "Oh my God," because she's now cast off into social Siberia. And when
she's also got a pink ticket to reinvent herself.
Right.
Yeah.
Because also when she was very drunk, she booked a cruise with her 2 sisters to kind of so that be her swan song, literally, and to patch things up with her sisters. So she then decides that she's just going to keep pretending she's got cancer, so the sisters will come on the cruise with her. But of course, it's not till they get on the cruise she realizes they've accidentally booked onto a cougar cruise. Do you know what that is, Emma?
Oh, I do. Yes. I quite fancy myself being a cougar, actually.
Yeah, I know. Wow.
Yeah.
A cougar cruise is, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a cruise where women our age, my age, I'm older than you, go for pay, but the young guys go for free.
Do these actually exist, do you think, Kathy?
Oh, God, most of them leave from Florida.
Shush, really?
Yeah, we should go. We should have an excursion, an away day.
Did you go on one? For research? Because that would be sort of totally justified, wouldn't it?
I wouldn't.
I'm only researching.
I know. In-depth research.
Yeah.
So, no, I didn't go on one, but I did research them. And, I just thought it was so much fun. The comedic carnal chaos that ensues with these three sisters on the Cougar Cruise was great fun. But there's a deeper meaning, the deeper message under the book. When I go on tour in Italy, my publishers there accidentally call me Cafe Latte. They said, here's Cafe Latte. And I thought, that's actually a great name for me because it's frothy on top, but there's a bit of a macchiato punch.
And strong underneath. I know, well, I mean, you do have a sort of really sort of odd dual life of, very, very funny books and with a very, very serious underneath. And I think that's what your actual life is as well. You're very vivacious, you're very outgoing. I mean, I don't think there's been a party in the last 30 years that I haven't been to where I've seen you. And at the same time, you're very, you're very hardworking, and you have a serious side to you.
Well, my serious side is that I'm a passionate feminist and a campaigner, obviously.
Yeah.
But also I have a son with autism, and I've written 2 books inspired by him, as you know, The Boy Who Fell to Earth and Best Laid Plans. And so I do have a lot of darker days in my life, but I know that I would never have got through those darker days if I couldn't have a good laugh with my girlfriends. And laughter for women is such a survival mechanism for us. And I mean, my motto in life is that your women friends are your human wonder bras, uplifting, supportive, and making you look bigger and better. I mean, we've been each other's human wonder bras for decades now.
Decades and decades. Yeah, we did war child books together, if you remember. We were editors. We've done so much work together. I mean, really, just good fun times they were.
Yeah, but also with a lot of serious, important campaigning and messages to get out there.
Yeah,
and funds for charities, etc. So I always say that it's called a wonder bra because when you take it off, you wonder where the hell your breasts went. So never wonder where your girlfriends have gone. Cherish each other. Let your cups runneth over with love for each other. And that's the message of this book. It's a celebration of the sisterhood, as well as being, having blowing a lot of raspberries at sexism and ageism and all that kind of thing. Because I think the menopause gets such a bad rap. But to me, when I was talking about life being in 2 acts for women, I think life is in 2 acts, and the trick is surviving the interval, which is obviously the menopause, which is hideous. You sweat so much, it's like, the Gestapo trying to get a confession out of you, having your own weather. But when you get through that, life on the other side of the menopause, I think it's the best time of a woman's life, because you no longer have to worry about being pregnant, you're not having periods. You no longer care what people think about you. You're liberated from that. It kind of gives you a cloak of invisibility because you're no longer sort of the center of the male gaze as much as you've been your whole life. Even though I think women hit their sexual prime in their 50s and 60s.
They are, indeed.
I call it the 60s, actually.
But do you think sex gets better when you're older then?
Definitely, because you're more at home in your skin. You're more at ease.
Right.
And also what happens with women post-menopause is that your estrogen goes down and your testosterone comes up. So you get a little bit more feisty, a little bit more selfish, a little bit more like a bloke, actually.
So you can take on the patriarchy in a different way than you did before, do you think?
Totally. You're fearless. You become really quite fearless. And of course, why the divorce statistics are so high, the silver divorces they call them. And most of divorces in Britain are now initiated by women, same as in Australia, is because the opposite happens with men hormonally. Their testosterone goes down and their estrogen comes up. So, that's why older blokes, you see them suddenly sort of crying in the movies and things like that. And they want to stay at home and nest. But women are like, I've nested. I've cooked 400 flocks of lamb. I've roasted, 400 million skills of salmon. I've buttered acres of toast. I want to go out there and conquer the world. I want to go up Everest, down the Amazon. I want to swing off a chandelier with a toy boy between my teeth. I don't want to sit at home, knitting my own bus pass.
But I saw you. I follow you on Instagram and all that stuff, obviously. And you've been in Australia a lot last year. I mean, you were there with the bushfires and all of that. What was that like?
Yeah, well, it was hideous. I mean, if we keep going this way we are in Australia with our very conservative government and doing nothing about climate change, there'll be more bush on a vajazzle dancer in Las Vegas than there will be in Australia. We'll have to plant a few little koalas in there, make that into their natural habitat. So yeah, it has been, but because my mum's so much older now, and now my kids are a bit more grown up, I can
How
get
old
back.
are your children now then?
My autistic son Jules is 29, and my lovely daughter George is 27. How old are your kids now?
Mine are 10 and 14. So I'm in homeschool hell. Yeah. Doing a lot of shouting. And also pretending I know stuff. That's what's so bad about it, is your children realise quite how thick you actually are.
That's so funny. Well, I don't have children who are school age, but I'm quite enjoying pretending to be Ms. Lette and say to all the naughty boys in my vicinity, "Come to my office."
But, so you have sisters, obviously, and you have an elder mum. So the Ruby character is quite similar to you. And
not really.
How much of your life do you steal? How much of the stories that you do you write that are in your book?
Well, I think everybody's first novel is pretty much autobiographical.
And yours was Puberty Blues, which
I wrote that when I was a teenager, about growing up as a surfy girl on the beaches of Sydney, where the guys disproved the theory of evolution. They were kind of evolving into apes.
And it was such a massive hit. I mean, you were launched like an exorcist into Australian society and the literary world. I mean, it was a massive book. I mean, it's very hard to come out of the gates with such a big one so early. I mean, how was that?
Well, it was weird to go from non-entity to notoriety like overnight, and the book it created like a seismic wave of scandal in Australia, and there were 2 copies sold to every family. So the kids were reading it, like Kylie and Danny Minogue tell me they grew up reading it under the bedspread with a torch, sort of going, "Oh God, yeah, this is us," and the parents had a copy upstairs reading it going, "Oh my God, is this what our children are getting up to?" And it was a very stringent little book. I mean, when I was writing it, I was reading Hemingway, a lot of Hemingway at the time, and I can tell the influence because it's very pared down sentences, very basic. But it was made into a film by Bruce Berson, a very successful film. And it's just a few years ago, a 20-hour TV series in Australia, which was hugely successful. So it punches way above its weight for a little tiny book. And it's on the reading list in Australia, in the Australian curriculum. So
you must be really proud. You must be very proud of that. I mean, when how old are you narrated again?
I think I was about 18. It came
18. Your 18-year-old self came out with that. I mean, that's quite extraordinary to have it on, as a reading list in Australia. I mean, it's amazing.
And all the vernacular's gone into the vocabulary now. So, when I'm walking around London, if Aussie kids see me, they call out across the street to me and say, "Go get me a Chico roll and don't take a bite out of it or you're dropped." Or they'll go, "Rack off, you fish-faced mole." And we all kill ourselves laughing. And English people are going, "What is going on?" So that's quite amusing. Yeah.
But and then so you went from Australia and then on the coattails of Puberty Blues over to here, or what happened?
No. In fact, so what I was going to say is your first book is pretty autobiographical, but after that, writers make a living out of lying. You obviously, you do. I only write because it's cheaper than therapy. I don't know about you, Emma. Really? Do you? Probably a little bit. It is cathartic.
Yeah. I mean, you write to work through things, but I think for you, you're a very feminist icon in lots of the stuff that you've been pushing, and you're a real sort of flag waver for our generation of women, I think.
Oh, thanks. Well, I always try and write the book I wish I'd had when I was going through something. They're almost like manuals I pass on to the next group of women coming up behind me, because I think if I have any gifts as a writer, it's putting into words what women might be thinking but not necessarily saying out loud, and also writing down the way women talk when there's no men around, because it's a great male myth that women aren't funny, and I don't know, I've been on book tour. I'm published in about 17 more languages, and I've been on book tour in many countries of the world, and there'll always be some male journo at some stage who'll say to me, "Oh, you say you write funny books, but women aren't that funny." And I think, why do some men still say that? I think they're just terrified what it is we're being funny about. I think they presume we spend the entire time talking about the length of their members, which You know, it's not true because we also talk about the width, you know, to child, that's more important, etc. So yeah, I think, I also think if you can disarm with charm and make your reader laugh, you've got a much better chance of kind of slipping your message in surreptitiously. But you're a bit like that too in your
Well, I love you for saying that. What I think is interesting is that I always think men tell jokes and women tell stories, and I think that is the sort of the big difference between our senses of humour. And also women, when they drink too much or when they're together, they like to share. And so I think a lot of the style of your books is like sort of sitting next to you. It feels very,
Oh, that's good.
and you, that's why you feel so engaged, I think.
Well, I do agree with you about the difference between male and female humour. I mean, my male friends are really funny. They have what I would call the black belt in tongue fu.
Yeah.
But tend to sort of tell set jokes or one-liners. You see them on those panel shows and they're just doing their routines. Whereas women never tell set jokes. I mean, our humour is much more cathartic, much more confessional, much more candid. We strip off to our emotional undies in about 3.6 seconds, and it's a psychological striptease that reveals all. And it's a great way of bonding, and it's hilarious. And it's not just me imagining that, because anthropologists say that women in all cultures on the planet laugh more often than men, especially in all female groups. And I think, isn't that fascinating?
That's fascinating, yeah. Do you think that's why we like book clubs so much and things like that? I mean, you know, it is about reading the book, obviously, but it is mainly about just getting together as a gang and having a glass of wine.
And also, I don't think as I said earlier, you wouldn't survive your darker days unless you had a good laugh with your girlfriends. Because if you laugh at something, you are strapping this big shock absorber onto your brain. And I think women have a lot of darker days because, generally speaking, we're the carers. You know, we care for our aged relatives, we care for our fragile friends, we care for our sick siblings, and take care of all of our children's needs, some of which are special, which is true in my case with my autistic son. So, you know, laughter is definitely medicinal for us. Yeah.
And what are you doing to let off steam during lockdown? Are you doing, where are you? Are you in London?
Well, I'm in London, but I had this surreal experience because because I've got, my new motto is adventure before dementia. I've got a column on the Telegraph Travel here in London, and that's the name of it. We call it Carpe the hell out of DM. Because the majority of solo travellers in their 60s are women.
Yes.
I said the men are sitting at home, you know, on the couch, just kind of, you know, crying into their soggy sandwiches, where the women are like, take on the world. So I was learning to sail with my sisters in the Whitsundays, and we had no radio contact for a week. So we had no idea that the coronavirus had escalated so drastically, because it happened really quickly, didn't it, when it took off?
Yes.
So we were like, you know, those Japanese soldiers who'd come out of the jungle and didn't know the war was ended. We didn't know the war had begun. So we got back to shore, and there were, you know, there was no toilet paper. There were queues to get into the supermarket.
Right, it was like Armageddon, and you hadn't noticed.
And the body count was going up, and we just got back to Sydney before the border closed. And then I had to make this harrowing decision between staying in Sydney to look after my 88-year-old mother, or boomeranging back to Britain to take care of my autistic son. So, and I knew that if my mum did get the virus, there was no way I could get back to her. So it was a really poignant goodbye. We couldn't even hug, you know, we had to just do a little light elbow action, and that was it. So that was really awful decision, but she's fine, thank goodness. And we Skype every day, and we do the Times and the Guardian crosswords every day because we're cruciverbalists. So we do keep in very close touch, but that was a tough call.
Oh,
I'm just in London. Yeah, you can imagine that.
I can't imagine that, actually. That's a terrible, terrible decision to have to make. Yeah. And I'm such a female one, actually. It's such a female decision, you know. I mean, you talk about being sandwiched between
exactly
one generation and the other, and you're basically the jams, not knowing which way to go. Really difficult for you, gosh.
But it's been extraordinary to be in Britain when this is going on, though, because of course we're destined to have the worst death toll in Europe. And I just can't believe that Boris Johnson did not see what was coming. I mean, Helen Keller could have seen it coming.
Yeah.
Procrastinated for a month. So this is a government that definitely has blood on their hands. And the British have been so stoic. You're famous for your stoicism, stiff upper lip, stiff upper everything. But to keep calm and carry on like this has been, it's been really humbling to see how the British public have reacted.
And have you got some sort of a gang of COVID friends? Have you got a gang of people you're talking to? Are you on house party doing all that stuff?
A little bit. I mean, I've got a comedic coven of Ruby Wax and Sandy Toksvig and lovely Joe Brand and Ronnie Ancona and a gang. So we do keep each other laughing because it's a case of laugh and the world laughs with you, cry and you get salt in your Chardonnay, which we definitely don't want. So yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Kathy, well, listen, thank you so much for joining us. You've been an absolute superstar, and good luck with the book. It's brilliant, and so are you. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, all I want to say to women is have your second act, enjoy it, be frivolous, have fun. You totally deserve it. Don't let your guilt gland throb. Just adventure before dementia. Go for it, girls.